But we start with a major piece of Big Ten news as the conference's Defensive Player of the Year is going pro. Michigan star Jabrill Peppers told Sports Illustrated's Pete Thamel today that he will head to the NFL. Peppers, who was a Heisman finalist this year, is known most of all for his versatility. By Michigan's count, he lined up at 15 different positions this season. Figures to be a safety and return man in the NFL, and most see him as a first-round pick. Peppers won 3 different Big Ten individual awards: linebacker, return specialist, and Defensive Player of the Year, this one season after winning Freshman of the Year. He was a unanimous All-American and finished 5th in the Heisman balloting, earning 11 first-place votes. And we're joined now by the guy who broke the story, Pete Thamel from Sports Illustrated. Pete, I know you had a chance to talk to Jabrill Peppers. How difficult a decision was this for him?
I think for Jabrill, from talking to him this afternoon, Dave, he really loves Michigan, and that really came through just in the tenor of his voice in our conversation. And that was probably the hardest part of this, was to leave that program, that school. You know, he went out of his way to mention his professors, to mention, you know, behind-the-scenes coaches, to mention Jim Harbaugh, Brady Hoke for recruiting him. You know, there's clearly some strong bonds. He grew up in New Jersey rooting for the Wolverines, and that was probably the hardest part. But as a professional decision, I think it's probably a really wise one. And I don't know if there was the emotional tug of this seemed to me, from speaking with him today, to be the hardest part.
So what ultimately swayed him?
You know, he just thought, Dave, he was ready to go, you know, try himself as an NFL player. He said basically the same questions about whether he can thrive at one position as opposed to playing a lot of positions well would hang over him if he stayed an extra year. So that was that. He did say that he felt like, because he was so injured his true freshman year, that you know, he kind of felt like he missed out a little bit on college. There was clearly a tug there.
And also missed out on some things that I think you go to a place like Michigan for. I mean, they didn't beat Ohio State. Not only did they not win the Big Ten, they didn't even win their division at any point in his career. How much do you think that weighed on him?
I think he clearly wanted to achieve more than he did. You know, at the same time, he had a pretty great career. I was looking at some of his numbers. It's a fascinating NFL draft test study case. You got 10 pass breakups 2 years ago, 15.5 TFLs this year. You know, you look at, he was the Big Ten leading punt returner by more than 4 yards average if you go by guys who had over 10 returns. Certainly, you know, one of the most unique and dynamic players, I think, to come through the Big Ten in a long time.
No doubt. And so now the question becomes, how does that translate into the NFL? What have professional scouts and people around that league told you about Jabrill and where he might end up in the draft?
You know, texted a couple scouts this morning. The thought is that he will end up somewhere in the first round, but no one's quite sure. His versatility as a returner is going to help him. He's clearly an elite return man. You obviously saw that, plenty of instances of that. He projects as a safety. You know, it's probably a little bit early to say if he'd be a free safety or a strong safety. You know, the NFL teams are going to want to see how he runs in Indy. You know, there are very typical lingering questions. I do think as this evolves, this process evolves, they will see him become sort of a divisive defensive prospect that people are going to have all over the place, just because he has such a unique resume.
Sports Illustrated's Pete Thamel. Pete, thanks a lot for your time, and enjoy a little bit of downtime here after the national championship.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate you.